Welcome to Work Mom Says,
Don't be an idiot.
and now here's your host, Work Mom.
Hello, I'm Lori Joves. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Work Mom Says, Don't Be an Idiot, where I teach young professionals how to play the emotional contact sport of business so you experience less drama and a whole lot more success. So today we're going to talk about something really timely. It is a bizarre time right now in the world. I know things are really expensive. AI is coming for our jobs, may or may not be. We don't really know. We are in an economy that seems to be suffering. Unemployment is up. Ugh, tough times. And during these times, it's really easy to get worried about your own job. So, what I want to talk about today is the fact that no one is coming to save your career. You get to do it yourself. And I know that sounds Pollyanna, but you get to create your career, especially if you're young. So right now, worker disengagement is at a historic low. So people are quietly quitting or job hopping, or they've gotten laid off and maybe they've had a long extended time period being laid off and they're trying to freelance or they're working outside of their industry just to put food on the table. But a lot of people that have the jobs that they like in career positions right now are still waiting for somebody else to promote them or make them irreplaceable. A lot of young professionals don't know how to create a reputation for yourself, how to generate a work pattern that people really like that gets you that seat that is still remaining, when the layoffs happen. Layoffs will happen. We are in a position right now where we don't know what the economy is going to do. And I'll tell you one thing as the owner of a small digital marketing shop, the employee who is on it, who is taking care of business, doing everything that they know needs to be done, volunteering for extra assignments is the one that I'm going to be sure doesn't go anywhere if I do have to do layoffs. Now, the person who waits for assignments, who maybe makes mistakes and doesn't, repeatedly doesn't solve what's causing the problem, maybe doesn't show up on time, maybe just isn't as invested in the company as the other employee, they're the one that's at risk. So what you want to do is put yourself in that position of being that engaged employee. Some statistics here that I think are really interesting. They define employee engagement as people who show up ready to do the job, give it their full effort, and do their best. And that is a certain percentage of people in the workforce. Employees who are not engaged may be spending more time on social media, maybe, they're taking a few extra minutes in the coffee room, while they're chatting with their coworkers before they get started, and they're coming back late from lunch and they're just kind of skating a little bit. And there are a lot of positions where you can skate. It's never, ever a good idea. Just because you can does not mean that you should. Because when times get crazy or, a little dicey like they are right now, the ones that go are the ones that are disengaged. We actually had a couple of years ago, we had 88% of people who described themselves as engaged. Now we're down to 64% of people saying they're engaged. And there's actually a category, which I think is crazy. There's a category called active disengagement. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't really know how they describe active disengagement specifically or what the percentage is right now. But I sat next to a guy when I worked in big agency land that was definitely disengaged. And he was a young guy, he had some talent, but he showed up late, left early. He was always away from his desk. He might leave his jacket there, his lunchbox or whatever, but he was never there. And that wasn't because he was in meetings, because people were always coming by and saying, "Hey, where is Jake?" Wasn't there. And he often came back from lunch smelling like alcohol, and he just was kind of phoning it in, right? And trust me, he didn't last very long. That is an actively disengaged employee. You definitely don't want to be one of those if you want to have a successful career or make a lot of money because people who are actively disengaged don't really make a lot of money because they never get promoted. So look at this as an opportunity to be a little introspective. Where are you not engaged in your job? How can you be more actively engaged? Not necessarily spending more time on the job, but paying more attention, truly giving it your all. That is what is going to make you be successful. So it's not disengagement isn't just a feeling, it's an active attitude toward your workplace, and it's a career killer in slow motion. Trust me, Jake lasted probably 6 months and then he was gone. And I did change his name to protect the not so innocent. So that's not really his name. So the other thing that I want to talk about during times like these is there are three things that young professionals sometimes wait for that never come. And those things are recognition, opportunity, and permission. And I've got to tell you, you can wait for someone to give you recognition or you can ask for what you want. And I'll give you an example. Now, I was in my 30s and I thought I was something, I guess. When you get to a certain point in your career and you're doing great, you're really happy with it and you're performing at a high level. Well, the studio I worked for, I was sales director, and we went through a little bit of a hiccup in the economy. The economy got pretty bad in Metro Detroit back in the 2000s, and so we had to cut the payroll budget, and the owner cut the operations guy. Now, the director of operations was the guy that everybody went to when something was wrong, when a customer was acting up, when somebody was complaining about an invoice, when somebody, scheduled time and didn't show up, or they two different clients showed up at the same time to work with the same person. Those kinds of problems that will have it happen in a production studio. And when he was let go, what happened was everybody was lining up outside my door because the owner was kind of off campus most of the time. He really wasn't around that much. He had kids in travel hockey, did vacation Bible school, all these things. And so I think he looked at owning this company as a way that, he could make money without having to work that much. And that makes sense. You get to a certain point as business owner. But everybody was coming to my door. I'm like, I don't have the authority. And what happened was over, 3 to 6 months, I ended up having no authority, but a lot of responsibility. Because if somebody came to me with a problem, I didn't just go, "Oh, well," I'd go, "Oh god, now what are we gonna do?" And I'd be the one trying to figure it out. So what I did, because it really kind of bothered me, over time, and I ended up spending so much more time doing that. So I actually asked him, "Can I take you out to lunch? And I wanna talk about what's happening at the company right now." And he wasn't there that often. So I had to schedule it and kind of plan for it and get nervous about it, like you do sometimes. And I sat him down and I said, I'm really struggling right now because I feel like I am keeping the place running, but I don't have the authority to do the things that I need to do if somebody has a question or a problem, I can't really solve it because I got to call you and I'm calling you so many times and emailing you and things are waiting and it's just really inefficient. So, can I have the authority to go with what's happening? And fortunately for me, he said yes. And that was a really wonderful thing. And it did change the dynamic of the studio. It helped me actually have some authority and ability to solve problems that came up, and it kinda changed the trajectory in that I ended up running this facility for, I don't know, about 8 years, and it was wonderful time. And I think that example is why you don't wait for people to recognize what you're doing. You don't wait for the opportunity, and you certainly don't need to wait for permission. Now, I was in a spot where I was going to be spending money, possibly hiring and firing. Those are the things that you do wait for permission on. But when it comes to leading a project or suggesting an idea or volunteering, you don't have to wait for permission to do those things. So I really think that you by asking for what you want, by advocating for yourself during this kind of an uncertain economy, you will do better than someone who's just coming in every day, sitting at their desk and not having a lot of things happen that has management looking at them in a positive way. That's what you want to do. It's not manipulative. It's you want to perform at the highest levels all the time. And during times like these, it's even more important. So I'm not asking you to do anything fake. If you're a person who usually calls it in, you're probably not listening to this podcast. So, if you are, then I'm just giving you ideas that you can take and run with because they will be useful, I promise. So the other concept I want to introduce here is ownership. Is if you are sitting back as an employee waiting for your employer to recognize you, give you opportunity, train you, make you a better, whatever it is you do, a better account executive, a better, drummer, a better, musician, a better teacher, a better, auditor or accountant, whatever it is, take ownership of your career and whatever it is you're managing. And you'll hear people say that having an entrepreneurial attitude at work is a really good thing. And here's why I say that, because if you're an entrepreneur, you know that the buck stops with you. Everything stops right here. Every bit of responsibility for things that happen at the company are mine. That responsibility is all mine, and I have to own it. So even if you work for someone else, you can take that level of responsibility for your career and for your performance and for your professional development. And that's the number one driver of engagement is people who are interested in continual learning and professional development are the people that are engaged in their professions. And you don't need a budget, you don't need a formal mentoring program. You need to make a decision that you are going to take ownership, start asking for stretch assignments, find a mentor, ask someone if they'll be your mentor. And, go out there and find opportunities to learn. And I'll give you one example. If there's a trade association in your industry and they have regular events, some of them have luncheons or workshops, online workshops, in person. They may even have conferences. Go to those things. Figure out if you can go. If it's after hours, it's at lunch. Ask your boss if they'll allow you to leave the office for some learning professional development opportunities and go to those things because what you'll learn is that over time all of those events contribute to your knowledge base because those events always have really great speakers. I mean, I'd say 95% of the time they're really great speakers. And you're able to go in and listen to this person who's at the top of their game talk about their field. And you learn about management and sales and marketing and business and, political trends and, economic trends and just all kinds of really great things. So, one way to take ownership of your career is to become a continual learner, constantly learning, constantly looking for opportunities to develop because that's what's going to take you to the top. So, next up, I want to talk about how to stop waiting and start moving, how to make sure that you stand out. And one way to do that is to have that conversation with your boss that changes everything. And it can be anything from, hey, I have this responsibility. Now I need the title. Or I really don't like being a copywriter anymore. I want to see if I can learn some graphic design. Or I'm in sales right now, but I'd really like to be, an editor, or I'd like to, do some interior design or whatever it is that your company does. And that's one way to get visible without being annoying. And that's to ask your boss, tell them that you really have a career goal or 5 and that you are interested in seeing how they can help you meet that by giving you opportunities in the current workplace. Yes, it makes you have to work a little bit harder. Yes, it makes you stand out. And one thing to consider, and I this is a really great question to use with your coworkers, your team, and yourself, is right now, are you being an asset or a liability? Are you an employee that comes in, does the bare minimum, gets paid? Well, then you are a liability because they will see you as someone who has to, who is taking a paycheck and maybe not doing as much as others. Now, if you're the high performer and you're in there, giving it your all, you're the asset. They won't want to let you go because if they do, there's going to be a big missing. So you want to be that asset to the organization. And again, I am not saying that you need to work 11 billion hours a week. You can work 40 hours a week. And while you're there, play at the top and do your absolute best, and you will be better than most people around because most people aren't doing their absolute best. So how do you make that mindset shift? It's not easy because we all kind of come with our habits. We come to the workplace with our life habits. We may have gotten them from our parents. My mother was one of those people that, God love her, and when it got hard, she quit. And because of that, she was always kind of at a clerical or admin level, maybe waitress level, but she was really, really smart. And I was like, if she had applied herself, how much could she have done? Had she really gone into work every day, given it her all, and really shared herself and who she was, she probably could have done really well. But she didn't. And fortunately, I had an example in my teens of somebody who was a really hard worker. And it really helped me understand how performance is so critical to just even staying employed. So that decision is not something that happens overnight. The decision to say, I am going to be an asset and do everything I can to be that employee that is, basically hard to replace. Everybody's replaceable, but be the one that's hard to replace or that will leave a big hole when you're let go. Be the one that's a lifelong learner. Be curious, be humble, and don't worry about being a rookie. If you are in a new situation, be curious. Don't be anxious. Be curious and know that everybody's a rookie day after day after day. Honestly, I don't think any of us really know what's going on. We may have wisdom, but we're all just kind of making it up as we go along, and I'm not even kidding. That's how it works. You take what you know and you make decisions based on that. So, nobody really knows that much more than you unless they're older and have a whole lot more experience. So, the person getting promoted or getting kept on the roster when others are getting laid off isn't smarter than you. They're just being proactive and strategic about how they manage their career and their day-to-day work lives. So that's what I've got for you. I really appreciate you listening today. And please take a minute to go to my website at workmomsays.com. You'll find transcripts, blog articles, all the archive of the past episodes, all kinds of things there. And if you are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, give me a like, and even a comment. I would love to hear from you. I am always open to hearing suggestions for guests, suggestions for topics. What would you like me to talk about? What areas of your career are you struggling with right now? And let's see if I can cover it in a way that has some impact on your future. So I'm also an open networker on LinkedIn, and I'm Lori Jo Vest there. Please get in touch with me. If you'd like to connect there, just let me know that you're a podcast listener, and I'm happy to hear from you via private messages there also. So again, take care, and I'll be back soon with another episode of Work Mom Says, Don't Be an Idiot.
Thanks for listening to Work Mom Says.
Don't be an idiot.
For more information, you can email WorkMom at lori@workmomsays.com. That's Lori at workmomsays.com. And remember,
Don't be an idiot.